Hello and welcome back to a new Q&A video here on Bongo Planes. I thought it's been a while since we've last had a video like this, so why not do one today? I've asked you on Instagram and on the community tab on my YouTube channel for questions, and you have been so kind to, well, ask me quite a lot of things. I'll try to include as many questions as possible. I do apologize if your question is not included, but I also do need to look at that the video doesn't get too long. But as I say, I will try to get through as many questions as possible. So with no further ado, let's get going. First question, Etihad or Emirates? I haven't flown with any of them, so it's just purely random thoughts. I would pick Etihad. What's your favorite livery? Great question. Many good liveries out there. The current Scandinavian Airlines livery has grown quite a lot on me. Etihad is of course also always a good choice. Can we find a third one that maybe is a little bit out of the box? ANA is a classic one, but I quite like it. So why not? ANA, Etihad, Scandinavian Airlines. Who are some of your favorite 1 to 500 setups? Very good question. There are some really lovely setups out there. I think currently the one I'm really enjoying is Aviation KA. I just like the setup. I like the pictures that he takes of it. Create some nice scenarios. I think that's probably the one that I enjoy the most at the moment. HDI International Airport is also quite nice, has created a new airport setup, so definitely do check them out. What is your favorite model? Too many good to choose from. If you know my channel, you know that I like Jumbolinos, but there are definitely better models than the Jumbolinos from Wings, but they're still cute. How many planes do you have currently in your collection? At the moment I am about 815. How much does your most expensive model cost? I mean, technically I think the highest price I have paid for a model would be for my standard livery ANA Dreamliner 7879 from JC Wings. Fantastic model. I have reviewed it. If you haven't seen that, do check it out. It's probably the best scale 500 model there is. I did technically, I think, pay like 95 euros for it, but the seller was only selling in Germany. Since I live in Denmark, I had to ask a friend who lives in Germany to buy it for me. So he had to pay 95 plus shipping to his location in Germany, and he then sent it to me in Denmark. So I think when we add all these things, the model ended up being like 110, 115 euros, which is insane for a scale 500 model, but anyone who knows the model knows that it is a rather special model. So I would say this is definitely the most expensive model I have. It is also probably the model with the highest value. If I were to sell it today, I would easily make that money back. All right, next question. Will you do a new airport? At the last Q&A you talked about Abu Dhabi. Someone has been watching my videos. Indeed, I did talk about Abu Dhabi last time, but I do believe I also mentioned that the only way for me to do that would be to have a sponsor. I still haven't found a sponsor for it. But I actually do have another project in mind which will definitely come before Abu Dhabi, if Abu Dhabi ever comes. I can't say too much about it yet, other than it will be in present time and it will be in Europe, most likely Northern Europe. I have done some work on that already, have started some preparations. But yeah, it's still too early to say more about that. Can you do a video on your YouTube channel about the backstage of your channel? I don't know if it would be a bit boring. I mean, I could definitely try one day if there's something special happening. I have kind of done something like that because I did do kind of a bit of a behind the scenes of just a regular recording day where I was doing reviews and stuff like that, but for my Instagram channel, and it is saved in my Instagram story highlights, so do check that out if you're interested in that. But perhaps if I have some bigger project going on or something, I might do another behind the scenes video one day, so perhaps. Can you put Cardiff in actual time, so today, not during a season but as a special episode? I could. The only thing is that the traffic at Cardiff these days, and I hope I don't insult any local Cardiff spotters here, but it's not that interesting. I haven't looked at the most current traffic, but before Corona it was basically, I mean, okay, they did have the Qatar Dreamliner coming in every now and then, but then it was a bit of Welling, maybe a bit KLM, Flybe. Flybe doesn't exist anymore, or at least not in the state as it used to. So there isn't really traffic there that is interesting enough for a video, unfortunately. Can you create your own manufacturer of Scale 500 models? But I mean, unfortunately, I don't have enough contacts within that field of business to do such a thing, other than, of course, lacking the funds. It would be lovely if we could do it, because I'm sure we could do a better job than Harper. What are the channel plans after Cardiff series finishes? Great question. I mean, right now we basically have two series, which is Philadelphia and Cardiff. Cardiff is in the third season now, and it's planned to have a fourth season, which should be the final season. Philadelphia, well, I've been doing so far. Right now we're taking a break because of Cardiff. I have planned something different with Philadelphia, which I hope I will find motivation to finish up and publish within this year. But I don't know how many more videos I will do in Philadelphia in the future. Cardiff will finish, of course, with the fourth season, and then hopefully by that time I will have a new airport running. As I mentioned, an airport in Europe, and then who knows? I mean, there are many possibilities, and I'm sure something will come up. Did you buy all the new models? No, I don't think I've ever bought a full batch from Harper. It would be way too expensive, and honestly speaking, there are plenty of models that just don't interest me. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream? I mean, I did kind of say that you could ask me whatever you want. I don't know. I'm probably boring, something like vanilla or chocolate, but yeah. Your rarest model? Probably the mentioned ANA 787-9 in the standard livery from JC Wings. I think they produced 150 units of that. A model, it's a model of a 737-800 of Pegasus. On its own, it's not really a rare model, but it is a sample model of that model, which makes it rare. Did you grow up bilingual, or why is your German pronunciation so flawless? Yes, I did grow up bilingual. I mean, I grew up in Munich, in Germany. I'm a Danish citizen, so that's why I speak Danish and German, and then at some point in school started learning English. But thank you. Are you considering changing to 1 to 400 scale, or are you staying with 1 to 500? There are many. I mean, I get a lot of chat from people writing to me, and so I do think I have a fairly good idea about what the state of the community is in Scale 500, and it is not very good. I know that many people are either stopping to collecting at all because they're just disappointed with the models that are coming to the market, with the pricing of the models. They're disappointed with the range of models. I know some people then change to Scale 400, which I can absolutely understand. There are many more manufacturers to choose from. There's some great models there. Of course, they're also not cheap, but you do get more. It's kind of better value in a sense. So I do understand why people change. I have no immediate plan of changing, although I must admit that I, a few weeks ago, was very tempted to buy a few Scale 400 models. I did not, because I wanted also to buy some scale 500 models, and I did not have enough money for both. But yeah, so the simple answer is no, I have no immediate plans to change to scale 400, but I do understand why people would do it. Do you only have scale 500 planes? No. I have one scale 400 plane and I have a few scale 200 planes, but obviously the majority of my collection is scale 500. What is your favorite airport is the next question. Munich airport, it works. Terminal 2 at least. Super efficient, great airport. What model would you like for Herpa to make apart from EasyJet and Ryanair? Very good question. Very, very, very good question. I mean, there are many. Honestly speaking, I would like them to do more also smaller regional airlines that perhaps don't have a massive fleet. I know they might be a bit more specific for, or have a more specific audience. But I mean, they wouldn't necessarily need to make like many thousands of these models. They could make limited series of them. I think they would make many people quite happy with that. So I'm thinking like a Jet Time in Denmark, Sund Air in Germany. Binter will come in Spain, at least they announced that, so that will be great. Logan Air in the UK, stuff like that I think would be awesome, but of course with Logan Air it would mean they would need to manufacture new molds for aircraft types that they currently aren't producing, and we know that Herpa does not like to do that. So yeah, but I would anyway enjoy it quite a lot if they did. Do you think there is a chance that Herpa will release a Ryanair or Wizz Air model after they've already... Okay, the ending of the sentence is missing, but I can imagine what you want to say. Ryanair will not happen, we already know that. I mean, at least not in the next couple of years, because Herpa, for whatever reason, is unable to get a decent contact with the airline or agree on a license. Wizz Air, apparently we were very close to get, but then the contact apparently ended during the corona pandemic, and it doesn't seem like they have really re-established contact to the point where they would be able to get a license. So for the next few years, no, I don't think so. Will you ever buy a C5, maybe for a little story for Philadelphia? A little story is good because the C5 is massive. I actually don't think the C5 would fit on my Philadelphia airport plate. I'm not sure if it would match the width of my taxiways. So I would have to measure that. Let me say it like this, it's unlikely it's going to happen, but it could be a fun story indeed. Can you put Philadelphia setup in Europe for one special episode? Good idea. Maybe for the future one day. Not right now, but we could try it for next year maybe. Let's see. What's your next trip? Actually, I think a really cool one, because I will be taking part in the farewell flight of Europe's last McDonnell Douglas 83. And I'm even able to be on the transfer flight of this aircraft because the aircraft is stationed in Billund. The farewell flight will be taking part in Copenhagen, so I will be able to go on the transfer flight to Copenhagen and then on the farewell flight. So I do very much look forward to that. Yeah, that will be my next trip. So it's going from Copenhagen to Copenhagen. Do you like aviation in the 1990s? And do you like more the American or European aviation? Yes, I do like 1990s aviation because that's basically what I grew up with. So when I was a kid and started liking planes, that was the planes that were flying around in the 1990s. So yes, I do very much like that. Do you like more American or European aviation? I don't think I have a preference as such. Both have some cool things. I mean, I'm more familiar with European aviation given that I am based in Europe. American aviation, I think, still has a bit more variety because they do tend to utilize aircraft a bit longer. So you do still have more older aircraft types. rather than in Europe where they are getting retired relatively early. So I think from a spotting point of view, I think American aviation can be quite interesting. I guess I didn't really answer your question, but that's the best I've got for you. Why did you start YouTube? I've kind of talked about it in a previous Q&A, so I will keep it brief. I wanted to do something with YouTube. I watched YouTube videos. I thought I could do something like this as well. But I didn't know about what. And then I thought to myself, I have these aircraft models. I know a little bit about aviation, at least enough that I feel comfortable talking about it in front of a camera. And so I started a YouTube channel about aviation. What do you think about Herpa in scale 400? It exists. I mean, they do occasionally make scale 400 models, but I mean, I don't think they set themselves much apart from the scale 500 models they make. I think there's a reason why they don't produce more, because they wouldn't be able to sell it because other manufacturers do a better job. What do you think about the January and February models from Herpa? So I guess you are talking about the 0102 2022 releases from Herpa Wings that they announced a week ago or something like that. I would actually say it's a rather unusual batch, because there is barely anything for European collectors. It's very much focused on North America and Oceania region, which I think, honestly speaking, is good, because we get so much European aircraft models from Herpa. I think any European collector can live with one batch that does not have Europe as a main focus. And it does mean a lot for all these collectors outside of Europe to get a batch that feels more like specifically for them. So that actually I think is a good thing. There are many interesting models in there. I mean, for example, we have then a Spirit A319, awesome. One, A319s we don't get many of anymore from Herpa Wings, and two, it's from Spirit Airlines, which is a new airline in the Herpa portfolio. So that also is a good thing. Maybe they could have spread it out a bit more so that every batch has a bit more variety. It's always mainly European, and then having one batch that is focused more on non-European aviation, I don't mind. Since you've been on quite some flights past pandemic, how has civil aviation changed in general? Very cool question. I think the main change that I have noticed is procedures during boarding and deboarding. In some areas in the world, it's been quite normal to have boarding according to groups. So instead of just starting priority boarding and then whoever is left, that's basically been the procedure in Europe for most airlines. For some international flights, they have been doing boarding in groups. And now they're basically, it seems like everyone is doing it for all flights, so also inter-European flights, which in theory is very good. I've experienced some cases where it worked quite well, and I've experienced cases where it didn't work at all. Where the whole point of having boarding in groups is, of course, to minimize people getting together in confined spaces so that you can keep your distance. But there are many things that you need to execute well. So basically you need to, for example, when you start boarding one group, you need to wait until this group has actually entered the aircraft before you start boarding the next group, so they don't just meet in the aircraft again. Or for example, if you have bus boarding, then it would make sense to have a bus for each group and not just having boarding one group, putting them into the bus, and then boarding the next group, putting them into the same bus. And there are some cases where this works, and there are some cases where this didn't work. So the theory is good. The execution very much depends on airline and airport. But I think this is really the major difference that I've noticed. Also deboarding, then some say, okay, now aisle 1 to aisle 10 can deboard the aircraft. Some say they do it aisle by aisle. Then it depends on the discipline of passengers. Do they wait? But it also depends on the discipline of the cabin crew. Do they actually tell people if they don't wait to sit down again? So you see, it really just depends on how the people involved are executing this. And yeah, basically that's the biggest difference I've noticed. I think everything else is pretty much as it's always been. Then we have just a few more questions here. And how long have you been collecting your models? And how much money did you spend on Philadelphia and Cardiff Airport? So how long, I have mentioned a few times before, but since early 1990s, mid 1990s, I think I got my first Harper Wings models. How much money did I spend on Philadelphia and Cardiff? I couldn't give you an exact figure because I have never really calculated it. Philadelphia was definitely cheaper because I pretty much built it all myself. So there it was just getting some materials, some cardboard and stuff like that. It's not really expensive. I think the most expensive part for Philadelphia was actually the plate. Getting the plate and having it cut, but I couldn't really give you a number for that. Cardiff was more expensive because I had the terminal buildings and the construction site actually custom made for me. So the terminals with the construction site and a hangar, I think, ended up being around $500. And then of course the plate and stuff like that, but that I did myself. It doesn't have to be expensive. If you want to do an airport, if you do it all yourself, you can, I would guess, have an airport. It also, again, of course, depending on the size of the airport, but for less than $100 should easily be doable. Hey Bongo, can you see if you could get a BMI Baby 737 for Cardiff, as the time Cardiff is set in 2005, BMI Baby were flying in and out of the airport to European destinations? A very good suggestion. One problem. There are no models of BMI Baby aircraft in Scale 500 whatsoever. So for season 3 it will be impossible because that's already filmed. So the only choice we have is to get a custom model for season 4. And I'm not sure I want to invest that money for the last season for one specific model. It is a very good suggestion because indeed they did fly out of Cardiff. So it would be quite nice to have them represented. The good thing is we do still have some time until season 4. Perhaps I will be able to arrange something, but let me think about it. As someone who is just starting their collection, how long have you been collecting and how much money have you spent altogether on your models? As mentioned, beginning of 1990s, first Harper models from mid 1990s. And how much money? Too much. So I think that were pretty much all the questions we had time for today. Thank you very much for everyone who has asked the questions. I hope I have been able to answer them to your satisfaction. I again do apologize if I haven't included your question in this video, but it is simply for time reasons, so the video doesn't get too long. But yeah, I do hope that you have enjoyed this video, and if you have so, then why not leave a like? That would be very much appreciated because it does help out the channel. And of course, if you are new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.